Okay, what's your name?
My name is Telva Urban.
Okay, when were you born?
August 19th, 1954.
Cool.
I am a baby boomer.
Where were you born?
Chicago.
Okay then. What do you remember what you were doing when JFK got shot?
Yes, I do. I was in 4th grade and I was walking home for lunch, and some big kids, 6th graders, came running around the field of our school saying, "The president's dead." And I remember saying, "No, he's not. You don't know what you're talking about." And then I got home for lunch and the news was on and found out that he had been shot, but I don't think he was dead yet. So, yeah.
Were you a very big fan of JFK or your parents?
Actually, my parents, I remember in the 1961, I think it was 61, the election where he beat Nixon, my parents voted for Nixon.
Oh.
So, and the slogan in our neighborhood was, "Nixon, Nixon, he's our man. Kennedy goes in the garbage can." So I would say our family wasn't fans, or our family, was not a fan. However, I was a fan of Carolyn Kennedy because she was kind of close to my age and she had a pony after she was in the White House, and I thought that was extremely cool.
Okay then. So, what about Martin Luther King Jr.? Were you a fan of him and your family?
Not really, only because I don't know about my parents, but the suburb of Chicago that I grew up in was pretty much all white people, and I didn't have a lot of exposure to any black people, and so I didn't really, I had heard of Martin Luther King, but I didn't really know that much about what he was doing or all that stuff. The whole civil rights thing kind of passed me by. Although the riots that they were having then around in the late 60s, we had to change the driving route on our vacation to not go through certain neighborhoods in Detroit because there were a lot of riots in Detroit. Which was that same era, probably 68.
Okay then. So, when Martin Luther King was shot, what were you doing, if you remember, what were you doing, and how did you react to that?
I do not remember when he was shot. I remember hearing about it, but it was definitely not the same for me as JFK. And I was sad because I knew Martin Luther King Jr. was kind of a young guy, too.
So, I guess you didn't have any black friends when you were younger, or
No.
like even in college?
No. I knew, okay, at my high school, the whole 4 years I was there was one black kid.
Wow.
And we had over 3,000 students at my high school.
Whoa.
So, not a lot of integration going on there. And when I got to college, I knew some black kids, but I didn't really hang around with any. There weren't that many.
Well then, now to the Vietnam War, do you think that we should have been in the Vietnam War at all?
The Vietnam War, I think was probably a mistake to get involved with, but I haven't really spent a lot of time studying it, I have to say. 3 of my cousins were actually in the war in Vietnam, and they all came back okay. But it seemed like, I mean, looking back on it now, I don't know if it was worth it or not. Way too many people died there, and way too many people had been permanently messed up who didn't die. Lots of the veterans from that era. So I don't think that it was worth it.
So, are those the only 3 people that you know who were in it? Do you know anyone else who was in it? Like, who actually, like, either died or got severe injuries?
No, from Vietnam? Nope.
Well.
I was a little on the younger end. Like, they still had the lottery draft when I was in high school, where all the boys, when they turned a certain age, got a number, and then that would decide whether or not they got drafted. But really, there weren't very many guys that were my age that were, by the time, I mean, I think Vietnam wound down when I was maybe a freshman in college. So, not too many people my age, and not too many people that I knew, because most of the kids I knew went to college and ended up not getting drafted. My cousins, though, they all went to college after they got back.
Okay, so, like, were you afraid of what was happening in the time period as far as, like, the KKK or any other major white supremacists?
I think I must have been pretty sheltered in my suburb because I wasn't really aware of KKK activity at that time. I just didn't get it, you know. Everything was, and I was probably kind of afraid of black people because I didn't know any, and all I heard was that the black neighborhoods were really violent, and so, and I never went in the neighborhoods, you know, where that were mainly black, and so I was basically afraid. Not of the white supremacists. I was afraid of black people because it seemed like they were extremely violent, which is kind of interesting now because now I work with all black people. So
yeah. So well.
Any other questions?
No. No, I do not have any other questions.
Well, it's been a pleasure being interviewed by you, Matt Urban.
Yep, okay.